The day started like any other. I was sitting at the kitchen table in my small house in Boston, sipping on my morning coffee and scrolling through emails when my phone rang. The number that appeared was unfamiliar, but it carried the sort of formality that made me think it wasn't just another telemarketer. Something in me hesitated, but I picked it up anyway. On the other end was a man with a calm, professional voice introducing himself as a lawyer named Daniel Porter. He said he represented a client who was filing a lawsuit against me. I was caught completely off guard, the words lawsuit and client immediately raising a cold sweat across my back. Then came the part that made my breath catch in my throat. Daniel said, "Your wife has filed for legal action against you." I froze in my chair, staring blankly at the counter where my empty cereal bowl sat. I couldn't comprehend the words I had just heard. My wife, Rachel, had passed away 5 years ago in a tragic car accident. The grief from that moment still clung to me, though time had softened the sharpness of it. But to hear someone tell me she was suing me, as if she were alive, was almost too much to process. I remember whispering hoarsely into the phone, "That's not possible. My wife died 5 years ago." There was a long pause on the line. The lawyer cleared his throat, clearly unsettled by my words. He apologized, explaining that he had documents filed under my wife's name and that everything appeared legitimate. I told him again that Rachel was gone, and I even offered to provide her death certificate to prove it. The lawyer seemed shaken and said he needed to investigate further, and we ended the call. But the damage was done. My mind was spinning in circles. How could something like this happen? Was it some clerical mistake? Or worse, was someone pretending to be my wife in order to gain something from me? I pushed my coffee mug away, my appetite gone, and I sat there in silence replaying the conversation over and over again. That night I couldn't sleep. Memories of Rachel came flooding back. She had been my high school sweetheart, the love of my life. We got married in our 20s, dreaming of a future filled with children and a house bustling with family dinners. But fate had other plans. One rainy night, while driving back from visiting her parents, she lost control of the car. The phone call from the hospital shattered my world in an instant. For years after, I struggled with grief, barely holding myself together. Now, after all that time, to hear her name linked to a lawsuit against me felt like being dragged back into a nightmare. The next morning, I called Daniel Porter back. His tone was more careful now, and he admitted that after checking again, the paperwork did seem suspicious. Someone had filed documents using Rachel's identity, accusing me of mishandling marital assets. That phrase alone made my stomach twist. I asked him for a copy of the documents, and when they arrived by email, I felt like I was staring into some surreal puzzle. There was Rachel's name, her old address, and even her signature. Except it wasn't hers. I had seen her handwriting 1,000 times in love notes, grocery lists, and birthday cards. This was close, but not perfect. That's when it hit me. Someone was impersonating Rachel. Someone out there knew enough about our life to create documents in her name. My heart pounded as I thought about the possibilities. Who would do such a cruel thing? And why target me? I called my best friend, Michael, who had been with me through Rachel's funeral and had helped me rebuild my life. He listened carefully and then said, "This isn't just about money. Whoever's doing this has to know personal details about you and Rachel. It's someone close, or at least someone who studied you." Those words chilled me. I spent the following days digging through everything I could find, looking for any clue. I called Rachel's parents, who were as shocked as I was. They promised they had nothing to do with it. I checked Rachel's old social media accounts, which I had left dormant after her death, and noticed something strange. Her profile had been logged into recently. Posts had been deleted, and some private messages had been sent out months ago. My skin crawled. Someone was actively pretending to be her. I contacted Daniel again and explained everything. He advised me to involve the police because this was clearly identity theft and fraud. I went down to the local station and sat with Detective Karen Mitchell, who listened patiently as I explained. She agreed it was a serious case and promised to look into who had accessed Rachel's accounts and filed the paperwork. She reassured me that I wasn't in legal danger, but she also warned that this might take time to unravel. In the weeks that followed, I felt like I was living in two worlds, the quiet routine of my job as a financial advisor during the day and the storm of questions and memories at night. Each time I thought of Rachel's name being dragged into something like this, it broke me a little more. Then one afternoon, Detective Mitchell called me into her office. She had traced the activity on Rachel's accounts back to an IP address belonging to someone named Jessica Carter. The name didn't immediately ring a bell, but when she showed me a photo, my heart sank. Jessica had been one of Rachel's old college friends. She had visited us a few times early in our marriage, but after that she disappeared from our lives. I hadn't thought of her in years. When confronted, Jessica confessed. She had fallen into financial trouble and had come across some of Rachel's old documents through mutual acquaintances. She admitted that she thought she could get away with using Rachel's identity since Rachel had passed away and couldn't defend herself. Hearing that, I felt a mixture of anger, betrayal, and deep sadness. How could someone who once laughed with us at our dinner table use Rachel's memory like this? Jessica was arrested and charged with fraud and identity theft. The legal process dragged on for months, but eventually justice was served. Through it all, I felt Rachel's presence beside me. Not in a ghostly sense, but in the quiet strength I found inside myself, the same strength she had always encouraged me to have. The entire ordeal changed me. It reminded me how fragile our lives are, how memories can be twisted, and how important it is to protect the legacy of the people we love. For a while, I had been stuck in my grief, unable to move forward. But fighting for Rachel's name, defending her honor against someone who tried to exploit her, gave me a new sense of purpose. Years later, I still tell people about the day a lawyer called to say my wife was suing me, and how I had to reply with the truth, that she had died 5 years earlier. It was one of the strangest, most painful experiences of my life, but it also reminded me that love never truly dies. Rachel may have been gone in body, but her memory lived in me, and in the way I stood up for her when someone tried to use her name for something she would have despised. Sometimes at night, I still sit on the porch with a cup of coffee, looking up at the stars and talking to Rachel in my heart. I tell her about my day, about the twists and turns of life, and about how I finally learned to live again. And though she never answers, I feel a peace I didn't have before. The lawsuit, the fraud, the pain, it all became part of the journey. But in the end, it was Rachel's love that carried me through.